Hey everyone, and welcome back to NFL Nexus. You know, during the long grind of the regular season, you can afford to have an off week. You can drop a game, maybe even two, and you still have time to recover. But in the NFL playoffs, forget about it. The rules completely change. One bad quarter, heck, one bad series, and your entire year's worth of work just goes up in smoke. The stakes are absolute. And for the Seattle Seahawks, their road to the Super Bowl isn't just a tough draw, it's a legitimate trial by fire. It's a journey straight through the heart of their biggest, most hated rivals. So today, we're going to break down this monumental task that's sitting right in front of them, a gauntlet so tough it's honestly almost unprecedented. We're going to look at the glaring inexperience that could absolutely be their downfall when the pressure is on, and then we're going to uncover the hidden advantages, the subtle little edges that their brilliant coaching staff thinks might just be their secret weapon to pull this whole thing off. This really isn't just a story about one football game, it's about surviving a divisional civil war to get to the promised land.
Okay, so here's the game plan for how we're going to break down this whole playoff puzzle. First up, we're going to lay out the brutal, and I mean brutal, reality of Seattle's path. We'll explain why winning the NFC West once this season just wasn't enough. Then we're going to put a microscope on the team's biggest question mark. Are they just too young, too green for a moment this big? But right after that, we'll flip the script. We'll get into the counter-argument and reveal a really fascinating kind of hidden edge they got from their bye week that none of their opponents had. We'll also dive into how one single veteran voice in that locker room is trying to be the calm in the storm. And then, at the end, we'll bring it all together to try and answer the ultimate question. Can these small, carefully planned advantages actually be enough to overcome such a massive challenge? Let's get into it.
All right, so first things first, to really truly understand the mountain that the Seahawks are staring up at, you've got to wrap your head around this one almost absurd fact. So what was their reward for winning the NFC West? What did they get for proving they were the best team in the toughest division over 18 weeks of absolutely brutal football? Well, they get the honor of doing it all over again. I mean, it's almost comical. They have to face their two biggest, most bitter rivals immediately, right out of the gate, back to back. This isn't your normal playoff bracket. This is a divisional bloodbath. It's like a second, more intense, single-elimination tournament just to prove once and for all who really owns the West.
And look, let's be crystal clear about something. Calling this division a powerhouse isn't just some talking point or a bit of hyperbole. It might actually be an understatement. You can make a rock-solid, data-driven argument that from top to bottom, no division in football has been more talented or more competitive this year. Just think about it for a second. 3 teams from this one single division made it into the playoffs. That fact alone tells you everything you need to know about how deep the talent pool is and how incredibly hard-fought every single one of those divisional games was. The Seahawks, the 49ers, the Rams, these teams have basically been sharpening iron against iron all season long. So, Seattle's path to a championship doesn't get to go around this gauntlet. No, it goes directly through its fiery heart. Now, here's the thing that makes this whole situation so incredibly volatile. It's not like the Seahawks are the only hot team and everyone else is just kind of limping into the postseason. No, they are all red hot. I mean, just take a look at these numbers. The Seahawks themselves are rolling in on a 7-game winning streak. The 49ers, they've been practically unbeatable for the last 2 months, losing only a single game in their last 8. And the Rams have been on an absolute tear since the calendar flipped over to October. What this means is that everyone is playing their best, most efficient, most confident football of the entire year at the exact same time. So what we're about to see isn't just your standard playoff intensity. We're getting a true clash of titans, all at the absolute peak of their powers. That makes this whole divisional showdown incredibly unpredictable and honestly, really dangerous for everyone involved.
And here's what takes the tension and just cranks it all the way up to 11. These teams aren't just good. They are profoundly, almost impossibly evenly matched. When these guys play each other, you almost never see a blowout. It's a 60-minute, high-level chess match. It's always a nail-biting, down-to-the-wire affair where every single play, from the first quarter to the last, feels like it could be the one that decides the entire game, maybe even the entire season. The long, bitter history between these rivals pretty much guarantees we're in for a war of attrition. That just raises the stakes for every third down, every field goal attempt, every single tactical decision from the coaches. One mistake isn't just a mistake in these games. It's potentially the fatal flaw that sends you packing for the offseason.
And if you need any more proof of how close these games are, I mean, this slide right here says it all. Just look at these numbers. Against the Rams this season, their 2 games were decided by a combined total of 3 points. 3. That is the difference of one single field goal across 8 full quarters of football. That's just insane. And then you look at their 2 matchups against the 49ers. It's been an absolute defensive slugfest every time.
Neither of these supposedly high-powered offenses has managed to put up more than 17 points against the other. That tells you everything you need to know, right? We are not talking about some high-flying track meet or an offensive shootout here. We are talking about gritty, painful, attritional battles where every single yard is a struggle and every point you score feels precious. This is trench warfare, plain and simple. Okay, so we've established the outside threat, right? This absolute meat grinder of a schedule they have to go through. But that's only one piece of the puzzle. At the exact same time the Seahawks are facing the toughest opponents imaginable, they're also dealing with a pretty significant internal hurdle. A potential vulnerability that the bright, unforgiving lights of the postseason have a really nasty habit of finding and exploiting. A profound lack of playoff experience. So, it all really comes down to this one question, doesn't it? When the lights are brighter than they have ever been, when the roar of the crowd is so loud you can't hear yourself think, and the pressure is at its absolute peak, is this team going to be ready for that moment? Because playoff football is a completely different animal. The speed of the game just feels like it's been cranked up. The hits are harder, the margin for error basically shrinks to zero, and the mental weight of a win-or-go-home game is just immense. So you've got to ask yourself, does this Seahawks roster, as talented as it is, have the veteran savvy, the battle-tested composure to handle the unique intensity of the NFL's second season?
And when you actually stack these teams up side by side, man, that experience gap just jumps right off the page at you. On one side of the coin, you have the battle-hardened veterans of the 49ers and the Rams. These are teams, and maybe more importantly, coaching staffs that have been through these wars before. They've made deep playoff runs. They've played in conference championships and Super Bowls. They know the rhythm. They know the relentless demands of January football. And on the other side, you have the Seahawks, a team that's just brimming with talent for sure, but whose roster is loaded with key contributors who are, for all intents and purposes, playoff rookies about to get their first taste of the big time.
And this isn't some vague, abstract idea. Let's get into the specifics, because this is where it gets really concerning if you're a Seahawks fan. Let's start with the most important position on the field, your quarterback. Sam Darnold is one of only 2 starting QBs left in the entire playoff field without a single postseason victory to his name. Then you look at the sideline. Head coach Mike McDonald, a brilliant strategic mind all season, no doubt, but this is his first time ever steering the ship as a head coach in the postseason. And it just trickles down from there. You look at the core of the roster. Rising stars like receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba and defensive tackle Byron Murphy II, plus most of the offensive line and the secondary, they're all completely untested in this unique crucible of do-or-die football. And in a game that, as we've already established, is going to be decided by the thinnest of margins, that is a massive, unpredictable wildcard to have on the table.
Okay, so it might sound a little bleak for Seattle, right? The brutal schedule, the inexperience, but this is where the story gets really, really interesting. Head coach Mike McDonald's entire philosophy is built around this idea of chasing edges. That basically means finding any tiny little advantage you can, anywhere you can find it, on or off the field. And by securing the NFC's #1 seed and that all-important first-round bye, the Seahawks unlocked a subtle but potentially powerful edge. And it's one that was gained not on the practice field, but in the quiet of the front office and the coaches' meeting rooms.
Okay, so stick with me here, because this advantage comes from a kind of obscure NFL rule about hiring coaches. Here's how it works. During the playoff bye week, assistant coaches on the top-seeded teams, in this case Seattle, are allowed to interview for vacant head coaching jobs around the league. After that week is over, that window slams shut until their team is either eliminated or they make it to the week right before the Super Bowl. Now imagine you're a coach on one of those other teams playing this weekend. You are trying to prepare for the single biggest game of your season, but your phone is also blowing up about the biggest job opportunity of your entire career. Talk about a major distraction, right?
And hey, don't just take my word for it. You can hear it directly from Coach McDonald himself. He knew exactly how valuable this was. See, his top coordinators, Clint Kubiak on offense and Adam Dirty on defense, are really hot names right now for head coaching jobs. Their names are on the short list for multiple openings, and they had several interviews lined up. Because they had the bye week, they were able to get all of that done last week. They could shift their focus, handle that life-changing business, and now, as he says right there, it's over. That means their attention this week is 100% undivided and locked in on breaking down their opponent.
So what does that actually mean for their opponent? Well, while Seattle's coaches are locked in a room with nothing but game film, what's happening over in San Francisco? You've got a guy like their defensive coordinator Robert Saleh, who is also brilliant and in high demand, and he doesn't have that luxury. This week, the most important preparation week of his entire season, he has to split his focus. One minute he's drawing up a blitz package to stop the Seahawks, and the next minute he's hopping on a Zoom call trying to land his dream job. That is a lot to handle. It's a subtle mental edge for sure, but in a game that's going to be decided by inches, you have to wonder how much is a completely focused coaching staff truly worth? It could be everything.
So that's the coaching edge, that's the focus edge. But there's another major asset the Seahawks have to try and counteract all that inexperience. And this one isn't about a rule or a schedule quirk, this one's about a person. In a locker room that's full of young guys, probably a lot of nerves, you need that one calm, steady voice. You need a leader who can navigate the immense pressure of the postseason because he's been there before.
And that voice in the Seahawks locker room belongs to linebacker Ernest Jones IV. He is one of the very few players on that defense who truly understands what this journey requires. And this isn't a guy who was just on the roster and got a ring. No, he was in the thick of it. He was a key starter and the defensive signal caller, the quarterback of the defense for that Los Angeles Rams team that won Super Bowl LVC. He has been to the absolute top of the mountain. He knows the pressure, he knows the relentless focus, and he knows the week-to-week mental grind it takes to win it all. And now, he's sharing that invaluable wisdom with his younger, less experienced teammates.
And this quote right here perfectly illustrates his core message. A reporter asked him, "What are you telling the young guys in the locker room this week?" And this was his advice. And it's so simple, but for an inexperienced team, it is absolutely vital. He's basically telling them, look, forget the Super Bowl. Forget about the legacy, the trophy, the what-ifs. If you think about that stuff, you're going to get overwhelmed, and you'll miss the crucial moments right here in front of you. He's teaching them to block out all that noise and to shrink their focus down to only the immediate task. Win this play, win this series, and ultimately beat the San Francisco 49ers. And yeah, we've all heard the one game at a time cliche a million times. But when it's coming from a guy who has the Super Bowl ring to prove that it actually works, well, that just hits different.
All right, so let's put all the pieces on the board and bring it all together. This is what makes this playoff matchup so unbelievably fascinating. It's a true collision of competing forces. This isn't just about who has the better players on paper. No, this is about whether intangible advantages, things like preparation and mindset, can overcome tangible battle-tested obstacles, like experience and a brutal schedule. This is the high-stakes puzzle that the Seattle Seahawks have to solve if they want to keep their season alive. Think of it like a set of scales, right? The whole narrative for this game is about finding a balance. On one side of the scale, you have these two huge, heavy weights pushing it down. The immense challenge of surviving that NFC West gauntlet, compounded by that major internal vulnerability of being so inexperienced in the playoffs. But on the other side, they're trying to add these little counterweights, these edges we've been talking about. They believe they have an edge in preparation and focus because of the bye week, and they believe they have an edge in mindset because of the championship leadership of Ernest Jones IV. The question is, which side will tip? And so that's what this all boils down to. That's the central question that's going to be answered on Saturday night. Can these carefully cultivated edges, a fully focused coaching staff, and a calm, veteran voice in the locker room really be enough to overcome the raw, battle-tested experience of their rivals and the sheer difficulty of their path? It is a classic battle of preparation versus reputation, and it leaves us with one fascinating question to think about as we head towards kickoff. We're about to find out if the Seahawks' calculated edges are sharp enough to cut through the toughest competition the league has to offer. I'm really curious, what do you all think? Can these small advantages really make the difference against such seasoned opponents? Let us know what your prediction is down in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown, do us a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe to NFL Nexus for more deep dives into the world of football. We really appreciate your support, and a great way to help the channel is by checking out our coloring books. They're perfect for children, grandchildren, and yeah, even adults. You can find them through the link in the description or by just scanning the QR code on your screen now. All right, that's all for me. Thanks for watching.